And then from then on, it's just like, okay,
Fair
toddlers, good luck.
Toddlers. Oof, throw out the rule books with toddlers, man.
Welcome to Mom Meets World, a podcast talking all things motherhood, friendships, and life. We're your hosts, Alaina Brookmeyer
and Peyton Saraiva. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's dive right in.
Hey, y'all.
Hey. Hi, guys.
What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Mom Meets World. We got a good one for you guys today. So obviously, first things first, we touch base on each other's weeks. So I just got back from my trip with my husband to Florida, and I also fill you guys in on what's going on with childcare with Chloe girl. And then Peyton's parents are in town, and she did that full road trip to Sydney to pick them up by herself with Cooper. So she'll fill us in on that. We got an awesome moment, so a product that we're recommending as far as the main topic goes today, which is high chairs that we both love and maybe we'll get in the future, Peyton. And then main heart will actually be feeding our kiddos. So all things relating from at the beginning, we do a little breastfeeding talk, bottle feeding regarding formula, baby-led weaning, and then all the way till where we are now, fast forward toddlerhood, which is its own ball game. So that's fun stuff. And then at the very end, we do have a friend tip for you regarding how to deal with judgment from others, or maybe if you're feeling a little judgy yourself regarding feeding kiddos. So yeah, what'd you think about this one?
I think it was a great one, guys. We covered a lot of topics. We kind of got into some really good chats, and I'm excited for you guys to hear it. So buckle up and let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so tell us, how was your big trip to Florida? How was the time away from Chloe girl? Give us the scoop.
Yes. Florida was amazing. In general, just nice to get away and know that Chloe girl was in good hands with her Nana and Papa. So they took excellent care of her. They didn't call us or text us with any questions, which was super surprising. So just having that comfort level. No. And I was like,
wow,
something's wrong. And we kept like sending them pictures and videos of our time and like, oh yeah, we're at the alligator farm, whatever. And then we were expecting them to send pictures and videos of her. And we literally had to ask them because we told them ahead of time, like, you know, extra credit points for sending us pictures, please. We want to see our babe. So anyways, but yeah, I mean, no news was good news, I guess, but we were kind of itching for some updates from them. But yeah, Florida was really cold actually, because I'm sure like when you picture Florida, you're like, oh, sunshine and the beach. And we were by the beach, the sun was out, but it was like very chilly. And so I think I mentioned in the other episode how the original intention for the trip was for a wedding. Mm-hmm. And so it was like originally a friend of my husband's. And so we went out there. We didn't really know anyone at the actual wedding. And so that was fun. And his bride is Venezuelan. So lots of Venezuelan like influence and music and stuff. So it's just like fun vibes and the fun culture. They like all her family was there. So very, very beautiful ceremony. And yeah, so I think it was just good to just have our time alone and didn't do anything else too exciting. It's kind of funny because I just mentioned we went to the alligator farm and that was kind of both Ben and my highlight, which is funny to think about, but very entertaining.
So tell me more about an alligator farm. What does that mean? I'm just trying to picture what this looks like because what I'm picturing is a farm and then alligators. I don't know.
It's essentially like a zoo setup, right? So in Florida, it's like Gator City. So even in like little ponds or like little lakes, whatever body of water you can picture that's fresh water, there's most likely an alligator there. So I'm fascinated by them because I'm a California girl, you know? So I was just like, these things are so weird and they're everywhere. I don't understand. So it's cool to kind of get up close to like the glass and see like giant, these like almost like dinosaur-like beings. So, but yeah, very well preserved place. Like highly recommend if anyone's in the St. Augustine area of Florida. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, so I think like the consensus after, you know, doing Ben and my honeymoon in Belize last April, so a ways back, and then doing my girlfriend's trip to Portugal in September, and kind of comparing those and then like going on this most recent trip with Ben, like my heartstrings were being pulled so badly, just missing Chloe. And I was just like, I think it's going on vacation with Ben because she's kind of the missing like piece of our little
Your
family.
little
So it's just like,
family.
yeah, I think it's just a reminder, like me being with Ben. I'm like, where's Chloe? You know, so
Yeah,
that part was kind of tough. But like I said, she was in good hands. So that was the
absolutely.
trip.
Well, I think
Yeah.
like both things can probably exist in the same place. You're allowed to like enjoy your time with Ben, but also miss Chloe.
Yes.
And I think like each trip has been so different, right? Because when you were in Portugal, you had a lot of things going on. You had a lot of set plans. You're with your girlfriends. You had endless things to talk about all the time. And then when you're away with Ben, I find like, especially with at least Chase and I, when we're not with Cooper, we talk about Cooper, right? And like he
Yes.
is part
Yeah.
of like what we talk about and all the things. And we have a lot, of course, in same with you and Ben, have other things to chat about. But like when you're with your partner, it's natural for us to go, oh, Cooper would be taking a nap, or you're going, oh, Chloe would be
Yes.
at gymnastics, or and I mean, granted, you guys are only gone Thursday to Sunday, so it's not like you'd miss a lot of major events during the week, but I'm sure it's like a normal thing for you and Ben to be like, oh, what do we kind of talk about? And that kind of gets us into something we'll chat about in a couple weeks. It's just like continuing that spark and conversation within the couples without having the kids being the center point of it, because I do find that
Hmm.
that happens with people, and just making sure that that relationship continues to be strong and how you can kind of keep that spark alive. And I think you've mentioned before that there's a lot of like little card games you can play about like workloads, but there's also card games and
Hmm.
games you can play, and I say games lightly, but like kind of like topic cards that you
Activities.
can, yeah, that you can like introduce with your partnership, or when you're out and about, to like strike conversation that are a little bit outside of the family talk of laundry, chores, financing, budgeting, and kids. That also like is kind of still like that fun dating phase, if that makes sense. So it's very natural to feel that way. I'm very excited. Chase and I are doing a little staycation with mom and dad, well, here with Cooper,
Yay.
and I'm very excited just to have a couple days. And we're kind of going to do like a Cooper is a minimal conversation, budgeting is little conversation, da da da, but like try to like re-give that like time and energy to each other. Because as we maybe know, like we moved down here and haven't had any help, and so since we've moved here a year and a half ago now, or a year and a month ago, we have not had any overnights without Cooper,
Wow.
nor have we had like, we've had some date nights, don't get me wrong, but probably I could probably count them on one hand how many actual date nights
Hmm.
without him. So I'm looking forward to having some like chat time with Chase and enjoying it. And it kind of like
Yeah.
leads me into mom and dad are here. So I'm so happy
Yeah.
about that.
Yay.
Oh, big deep breaths. It has just been so great. I'm very proud of myself. I drove to Sydney solo with Cooper and it went
Tell us all
swimmingly.
about it.
It actually went so well. I broke the trip up on the way up to Sydney. I stopped at a really awesome like indoor aquatic center, and Cooper and I met up with some friends and did like a big swim, and like they have water slides and whatever. And we kind of hung out in the heated pool, but then drove to Sydney, stayed the night there at a friend's house, and then got my parents at the airport. And that reunion was like amazing. I mean, like
Hmm.
tears were rolling. Cooper ran to my parents, and it was just something where I just was so like happy to be there. And my parents are doing exceptionally well. I was a little
Good.
nervous to how they were going to go with traveling across the world. It's a huge flight. Mom and dad didn't like the flight, which, to give them fair, not a lot of people do. But I think that's the only complaint they've had. They've been here 7 days now. I haven't had a single complaint except for that. Um, and they're just adjusting really well. And it's not that I didn't think they would, but like it is so much change driving on the other side of the road, different currency, different temperature. We live 4 hours down the coast. Like a lot of things that could have been like, whoa, this is too much, or any like snapping or weird behavior, if that makes sense, or
Like
like
time
tension in the
difference,
house.
obviously.
Oh, massive time difference, as you and I both know. And they are doing so well, and they're just
Good.
eating time up with Cooper. And I've been working a little bit more lately, and so mom and dad have been watching Cooper solo. I sent Cooper to daycare Monday, but then yesterday I had mom and dad watch him yesterday and Tuesday for a bit, and they're just two peas in a pod. I mean, all three of them are getting into trouble, but I mean, when I say trouble, mom bought him a new hat, and now they're down at the inlet, and they're swimming and boogie boarding and doing all
Yeah.
these things, and just like thriving. And I think my parents were meant to be grandparents. I haven't seen them like more like on the ground playing in their element, and I am just I'm so happy. And like I am I am soaking in every single minute because I know how fast this month's going to go with them. And I am just, I mean, even looking down now at the date, I'm like, oh my God, no, I can't say that. I need them to
When you just
stay.
said 7 days, I was just like, how has it already been 7 days that they've been there? I feel like they just landed like 2 days ago. What the
I know,
heck?
dude. I know. So really trying to like enjoy every moment and not rush. I saw this like little quote yesterday that I wanted to quickly say, and I saved it, and it kind of like smacked me in the face before I went to bed. And it says, silly me, here I was hurrying through all the things I once hoped for. And like I find that sometimes, especially like right now in this toddler stage, we're always like, come on, Cooper, hurry up, let's get in the car. Or come on, let's hurry and get to the park because we have to hurry back for your nap. And I think my goal for the next like month is just going to be like, stop using the word hurry and starting to be like, why am I hurrying to this thing? If his nap is delayed by 20 minutes, he's going to be okay. And that's a me thing. That's not a him thing. It's not a Chase thing. That's a me thing that I'm the one putting the pressure on. The nap time. Or let's hurry to get to the beach by 8:30. Well, what if they're at 8:45? Nothing's going to happen. And so I'm going to try to be like present and more like intentional about it because one more little tangent, but mom and dad just got all of their VHS like videos and their old cassette tapes and VHSs and like the old school cameras, crayons like converted over into TV.
Ooh.
And so now mom and dad have all of our childhood videos on their computer. And so like at nights we've been sitting around after dinner when Cooper's in bed watching like my childhood videos with my sisters and my parents and just like watching how fast it goes. And it gets me so crazy. I'm like, oh my God, Cooper's already 2.5. Like we're looking at 3 in a couple months. And I'm like, this is flying by. So trying to be more intentional.
That's adorable. I love that. That kind of reminds me of I have another mama friend, and she has a son who's a similar age as Cooper and Chloe. And he calls it, let's see, I think he calls it the Teddy Show because his name's Teddy. It's like, Mama, a Teddy Show. So he wants to watch like old videos that she put together and like compiled on her iPad and everything. It's so cute. So can Cooper point out like which one is you when you're a kiddo?
Yeah, he can't. I mean, obviously like babies are a bit trickier because he'll just say baby or looks like Cooper. But when I'm like I think after like about age 6, he can call me out. I mean, I'm brown haired. My sisters all have a bit more blonde, but he's actually figuring it out and it's really cute.
Awesome. And then just to touch on childcare, so essentially he's doing childcare like maybe when your parents want to do their own thing and then they want to take him on, even though you can't get your money back from childcare, but obviously they would probably prefer him sometimes, right?
Yeah. And I definitely want to hear way more about yours. But right now we have childcare 4 days a week, but mom and dad just watched him 1 day this week, or 2 days this week, and I sent him off 1 day. I want to keep the routine with the childcare. Like I want him to get used to going and I want him to stay comfortable with his teacher and not have any regressions. But like my parents are only here for a little bit and I'd much rather have them have that time with him. So it's going well. He went to daycare Monday. My mom got to go with me and got to see the process. And she was very pleased with like how much Cooper loved it and the way it was set up and everything, which also made my mama heart happy.
Oh, that's awesome. And then she can visualize it more when you talk about it in the future. So that's awesome. I wonder if you could also do like half days where take him for that half day and then maybe they can go pick him up, I don't know.
Oh,
but,
good idea. Oh, I like that. That's definitely a good one because we do have a few more weeks with them. So I don't want to like lose the daycare option, but also, So, give us a drum roll, please. How is daycare going? So last time we spoke, you had day 1. Give us a scoop on what's been happening.
Yes. So we just completed day 3 and, we're still doing 2 half days per week. So Tuesday, Thursday, just 8:30 to 12:30, nice and easy. Chloe's been phenomenal. And I swear it's because of her experience at the gym and like me taking her so often there, like me saying, peace, I'm going to come find you later. Kind of same idea as like a little bit of practice with my other mama friend, like sometimes we do a training session. Like I'll train her at the gym and then she picks up Chloe and her kiddos from the gym, takes them out for a couple of hours to her house, and then I come find her. So I think like she's used to the idea and like, us talking about it so much ahead of time and us talking so much afterwards being like, oh my gosh, do you love playing with Miss Amanda? Like, did you get to play with the other kids? What did you do? What was your favorite part? So I think like it just gets her more excited and more like focused on details. So drop-offs have been great. pickups have been great. She almost doesn't even want to leave, but she's not kicking and screaming when we go, but she wants to find other things to do. She'll go to the bookcase and be like, let's read. Or she'll start singing a song when I'm like, do you need to go potty before we leave? And she's like, la-di-da-di-da. And I'm like, okay, no one's home. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's been great. Yes.
Oh, I can't tell you how happy that makes me feel. And I know all of our listeners have been super interested to know how it goes because it's a big transition. We spoke about it on our episode last week. So if you're new around here, go back and listen. Alaina talked about her, reasons why joining into daycare, but also like what our fears and anxieties going into it. That was a great episode. So if you guys have any interest, go back and listen to that. So have you found any daycare diseases are coming through your house, or are you feeling good about that? Because I've heard daycare diseases are real in the first year, but
yeah, maybe it also depends on like the age too, since she's not a baby or like early toddlerhood. So she's like we just touched on, they're about to turn 3 in a couple of months. So I think also with her going to the gym and being exposed there. So I think like I said, in so many different ways, her just going to the gym childcare has helped
really set
this
her up.
process. Yeah. And I think throughout this season, I've been giving her, because I give her a little pro or prebiotic little multivitamin gummy each day, but I've also recently been giving her elderberry gummies. Okay. So just to kind of get ahead of the game and like give her that little boost that she might be needing during the season, and especially getting her into childcare. So maybe that's been helping. I don't know, but knock on wood, she hasn't gotten anything yet, and I haven't heard from the school about anything. So I would hope that they tell me if something's going around. What about you guys? But it's spring for you, so summer.
Summer, yeah. Knock on wood, we're doing well. I'm not going to jinx it. So far, so good.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
So, well, good. I'm feeling good about that. I just wanted to ask, so do you have any moments, we're kind of speaking about like probiotics, prebiotics, and kind of will lead us into today's conversation. The moment of our week is going to be like our high chairs that we love, or certain products that we use. Today's topic is going to kind of be all about food and our journey with our child's food up from infancy all the way up till almost 3. So do you have a moment you recommend?
Yes. So obviously high chair plays a huge role in babies feeding and all that good stuff, like leading from bottles to food, solids. Like you said, we'll touch on that in just a sec. But yeah, high chair was actually gifted from our registry. It was gifted from someone that I didn't know super well, and they just like sought out my registry and just were like, hey, here you go, I got this for you. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so nice, because high chairs can be a big ticket item sometimes. Yeah. So I was like really just, touched by that. That was really nice of them. So the one that we ended up using is it's by the brand Stokke, Stokke. And I know that they have a few styles, but we did the Click high chair. So it's like all very easy to clean. We were about to get like little padding to make it comfortable for the chair, but it's all plastic. We actually didn't get the padding. So Chloe never complained about being uncomfortable or anything like that. So it was just like so easy to wipe down, as we know, they get freaking messy, and easy to like take apart. Like the name says, it just kind of clicks in like the legs of it and the tray. You can take the tray on and off. That was another thing. So when she started to get a little bit older, she didn't fully need that tray setup. We could scoot the high chair without the tray up to the table. So she could kind of sit with us, but still be buckled in. So I thought that was the perfect little transition. So yeah, that really worked out for us. What about you?
Yes. So my story with high chairs are very funny, but not really. I think that I just saw a brand that I recognize, which is like the Graco high chair. And that's what I personally put on my list. When we got it, it was a beautiful gift, but it was way too big for what we liked and what we needed. It took up way too much space in our house. It just wasn't for us. So it was fine if you had a massive table with massive people. It did not really get smaller or whatever. So what I am doing is with our next baby, I'm kind of doing like our wish list or what we'll get for our next child, just because I found the things I didn't like about that. I do want something that's a little bit smaller, that has the tray that can remove to push it up to the table. And the one I had actually didn't do any of those things. So the one that we've been eyeing is called My Happy Helpers, and it's like a dine and grow toddler dining chair. And so essentially you can put your infant in there, or like, starting at 6-7 months when you start eating. It's got the straps, and it is a little bit wooden, which I actually like that a lot, like the wood feel as opposed to plastic for us at least. It's got a little bit of padding, but you can like start as an infant and then it grows and then it looks really nice. You can put it at your table. You can adjust the heights up and down, so depending on your dining table, but also can contract nice and small, so you can tuck it away. So like say you have guests over and you don't want the high chair out, you can put it in like a broom closet, which That's a huge thing. I tripped over my high chair all the time
Oh my
with
God, all the
Coopers.
time.
Oh my God,
Yes.
all the time. The legs somehow like stuck out all the while. So it just wasn't for us. And Chase did not like it. And I found that to be such a funny thing that like out of the whole thing in our house, he's like, I don't like that high chair. And it was I'm like, I put it on the list. Like, we researched this together. We added it to the registry, but I still don't think we knew. Like, no, as new parents, I had no idea what you do want, what you don't want. I think I wish I would have done a little bit more research on that, because I think that would have been one of those items that I would have kept for second baby if I would have liked it more. If that makes sense.
Totally. Like an investment. Yeah. So now now you're learning from the process, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So, that's good.
So speaking of all of that, we'll jump into the part of the topic today, which is essentially, like you said, all things feeding our kiddos, all the way from infancy or actually newborn, being an infant, and just like diving into toddlerhood, which is a whole different ball game. So starting kind of like in chronological order, right? Like, how did your experience go with Cooper? So we know you did some breastfeeding.
Yep.
Kind of tell us a little bit more details of that, like any challenges, or if you had any like tips that maybe other mamas might want to learn from you. Go ahead and share the deets.
Yes, absolutely. So, we decided, I, at least for a long time, thought I wanted to breastfeed and knew I wanted to at some stage. But I didn't realize that, like, fun fact, when you're breastfeeding, it's not just like your teeny nipple that goes in the baby's mouth. It's like your whole kind of boob goes in there. So that was like my first shock of the process of nursing. And I had to use the like hospital lactation consultant the whole time to be like, help me out. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Help me. So tip number one is definitely ask for help if you need it. If you don't know what you're doing, some people it feels natural, some people it doesn't. And also, like, Chase didn't know, and the book shows you pictures, but like you don't really know. So if you need help, ask. So like that was a big thing for us. But with that, I still was running into issues with like nursing. I feel like I would spend 45 minutes trying to get him to nurse, and then I'd end up pumping to then give him a bottle to then like start the process over. So after like 3 weeks of like nonstop, just like nursing or trying to force him to eat, whatever. We ended up going to my pediatrician said that he had a little tongue tie. So there's tongue tie and lip tie. Cooper had tongue
cheek
tie,
ties, right?
I think so, but I don't know if I don't think Cooper had that.
And for anyone who doesn't know about ties, they're just those little bit of skin connection. Like if you even try to feel under your tongue, that's where that little connection may or may not be, depending on if you had yours snipped or not. So that's that kind of situation in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way of phrasing it. Yeah. Thank you. As we all go and lick our tips, like our teeth and our tongues now.
Yes.
So we made the decision to go ahead and get this tongue tie procedure snip. So essentially they went in, they did a little laser under his tongue, had to do some exercises with his tongue after that in order to kind of get that full range of motion, but he still wasn't nursing. So before I ask you, I did want to recommend, I was introduced to something called a nipple shield. And nipple shields have a huge range of uses, which is really awesome. Most people use a nipple shield for if their nipples are sore from nursing nonstop. You kind of have that cracking or that uncomfortable feeling. Ooh, yeah. What we had found was the nipple shield helped Cooper find that suction because he couldn't suck really hard because of his tongue tie. It kind of helped pull my nipple out a little bit so the milk would come, and then it kind of looked like a bottle tip, if that makes sense. And so that was like a game changer in my house. I used that for probably 6 months. Probably didn't need it that long, but like when I was at home wanting him to have like a big feed before dinner or a big feed before bed, I would use that, and it completely changed the game for me.
Good. I'm so glad that ended up working out for you, because there's so much trial and error that goes into breastfeeding.
So much. Well, tell me about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we did everything possible. And I'm like looking back on all of it, I think that really is where my like OCD was kind of triggered, because I was like so paying attention to detail, like, oh, if something works, then let's do it exactly the same way and see if it continues to work, because that was probably one of the most challenging times with Chloe so far. So we lasted about 6 months. I think right past that 6 month mark is when I said, okay, we're done. And she actually bit me at that point. So I was like, yep, that's it, because I knew we were getting close. But I had a lactation consultant, and looking back, I think it was fully, if not partially, covered by insurance. So that's a little FYI for anyone else who's listening. Look into your insurance and see if they do cover any lactation consultants, because I even got a pre visit, like before even giving birth. So I did a little just prep visit with her, and we built a really solid relationship together moving forward, because I wanted to see her so often, and I messaged her on their little chat like so often, because I was like, am I doing this right? I just don't know what's going on here. Like, why won't Chloe latch? So we did everything. Like, we did the nipple shield. Let's see, we did, what else did we do? We did chiropractor, because maybe the lactation consultant was thinking maybe it had to do with reflux or just like colic in general. Sometimes you just need to get adjusted. So we did that. We did the tongue and lip tie procedures. We did both of those, all those exercises. Oh my gosh, like every 4 or 6 hours.
Miserable.
God, I don't miss those days. And like, I tried to set up the environment perfectly. And so I just did my absolute best. Like, I would try to have the lights dim, and no one, don't you dare make a sound if she's latched to me. I will murder you if you like disrupt this. So it's one of those. And so it was just like very focused on it. And even if we were traveling, like, let's say we did a little road trip, or maybe we're going to go camping, just whatever. And if we had to do a little breastfeeding in the car, I would get so anxious about it, because I'm like, this isn't our normal environment and this and that. So I did my best with her, and she was a little peanut to begin with, but even just taking her to the pediatrician, and they were like, oh, you know, she's down there on the percentage. And I'm like, I know, I'm trying my best to feed her. And so, 6 months went by, and I did some pumping here and there. I think we gradually went to almost 50-50 by the end, but not quite yet. But yeah, once she did that bite and I knew we were towards the end, I was like, nope, this is it. This is you telling me we're done. So that was about 6 months. And then we just did formula moving forward from then. And that was its own journey too. Like, you got to find the right bottle. You have to find formula that sits well with their digestive system and like all this stuff. So did you guys ever do formula?
A little bit. So like, I think, and you'll probably remember this, but this was during the time where there was a formula shortage.
Yes.
And so I found that we were always doing the Similac, but the Similac was always out of stock, and Cooper really liked that formula. And so I think during this time frame of like post-COVID world, we were so short on supplies that like we were out of like Tylenol, we were out of formula. And so yes. I found that I was always trying to pump to provide enough so that we didn't have to rely on formula, because I was always so worried what happens if they're out of formula. And I had that like anxiety of, and I think that's just having a lot to do with like the COVID time and like my anxieties and fears of like during COVID, like running out of things. And we had a slight experience where Cooper was 6 months old and he got COVID, and his fever was like 104.5. And we chased went to 4 different Walgreens and CVS and couldn't find children's Tylenol and no formula to bring his fever down. So we went to hospital, and I was like, I hate that we're living in a world where I can't provide my child necessities in order to like bring a fever down or to bring like that formula. Because at that point I was like, he needs to be having more than just breast milk to get this fever down. Like, hydration is key, if that makes sense. So we did do some formula, especially because mom and dad would watch Cooper a couple days a week. If I couldn't provide enough milk to get them through the day when they watched Cooper, I wanted them to always have like a canister or not. But one of my favorite memories is I told my grandparents about my fears, and bless my grandpa's heart, this is still one of my favorite memories of him. He went and found a supplier of the Similac formula and bought me like 6 like containers of it, not hoarding. So don't come for me, but like it was the sweetest thing. And he came and brought it to my house, and he just was like, I knew you were worried about this. I can't help you with like, because he knew like in certain ways grandparents can help in some ways, but they can't help all the time. And he's like, if I can help with this, I want to help. And so that's like such a good core memory of him finding that formula for us. And like, I just knew he like cared in that way, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh. That is like love right there, straight up. It
was so love. But yeah, I was lucky that like Cooper did take formula. He liked breast milk better. Like, he liked the pumped milk better. And thankfully I was so, in the beginning, as I mentioned, like I would try to nurse. When he wouldn't nurse, I'd pump, and I'd pump to nurse, Like, it was a cycle. So I always had a little extra milk. So I would just freeze that. And so those times when he would go to mom and dad's or whatever, like I did have a good supply. But tell me about Chloe. Did she have any allergies? Did she have any unsettled stomachs or anything? Or was she good with all formula?
You know what? She had some reflux, but I think that started even when she was younger because we had to sit her up, like even after feeding, doing breastfeeding, I would have to sit her upright slightly. Even like, oh God, at 2 a.m. feeds or 4 a.m. feeds, I would have to still be up with her for like those 10 minutes before I laid her back down for sleep. That was torture. But yeah, for the formula, I don't think we did too much trial and error. I think I got recommendations, like a handful from my lactation consultant. And so she's like, here's some really solid ones that, I highly recommend. And like you said, there was a shortage. So I reached out. I think I did, let's see, what was the app? What to Expect. Were you a part
Yep,
of that
of
app at
course.
all? Yep,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And so I was all on those community groups. And
Forums.
so
Yep.
for like March 2022 babies, and so, or like formula for babies. So I would be posting on those forums, those little community chats, and one person reached out and she was like, hey, I have this brand of formula and my kid doesn't like that one or take that one anymore, but I keep getting it shipped to me from like insurance or whatever the setup was. And she's like, obviously I'm not going to turn it down. She's like, I will send you these, and if you just want to like pay for shipping, I'm literally just going to give these to you. And I'm like, oh, you are an angel. And even in the first package, she sent me like a little baggie full of candy and like a really sweet note. And like her and I have been almost pen pals ever since. It was so sweet because she lives on the other side of the country and she's actually not on social media. And I'm like, who is this person?
That's
So
so
anyways,
nice.
I know. And so that's just like one of those times where, that outage really showed, like, that's where people could step up for you, us mamas in need. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's that club where you just know and you can like really resonate with everyone's different experiences. So yeah, I was thankful enough to have her help us out in that way. And then, Chloe outgrew her reflux. She did have a little medicine for that from like the pediatrician just to get her through. And we, for the bottle feeding for the formula, once Chloe started to be in that wiggly phase, I forget what age that is, but they just start to like want to just move around and not sit still for the bottle. We had her swing just on the ground, that Graco swing that just is
Yep.
automatic. And we wouldn't have it on, but we would strap her in there just to stay upright and stay
Yep.
still. And I would just hold the bottle for her. And like, that is how we fed her like for a while. Cause I'm like, girlfriend, you are already spicy. Like at this age, you don't want to sit still. You're being sassy, not taking your bottle, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that was an experience. So glad to be past that. And, we found a bottle that worked for us for the most part. And yeah, that worked out smoothly. And then obviously that leads us into baby-led weaning or like solids, because I think generally kiddos start at 6 months, but I think some people start earlier, some people start a little later. What about you guys? What did that look like for Coop?
Yes, absolutely. So we started the baby-led weaning about 6 months. I remember we made him like the traditional like little rice cereal. We went to Sprouts and we got like the baby stuff. You mix a little water in it, and I just remember him in his big chair. He had like a little green bib on, and I just remember him like his first mouthful, and then like ate more and ate more, and from then on, man, he has been an eater. He loves food. Anytime we'd put it in his little bowl, he would do it. And we had one of those like little bowls and spoons that stuck there. So we really let him get messy. I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted him to like play and experiment with food and not be so structured on how that looked, because each meal would look a little different. Sometimes we'd be out and about, and at 6 months, he doesn't need that for nutrition. It's just more kind of getting his palate
Yes.
expanded and trying to get that fun. But I just remember so much fun the first like every meal was exciting because like, oh, should we give him peas? Oh, should we give him some avocado? Oh, let's do this. Oh, should we do that? And I loved it so much. And Cooper had a blast with baby led weaning. And I remember he would eat the avocado, he would just hold on to it, or he would gnaw on an apple. And of course, like there's books that'll tell you what's good for what age and all that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. But also just trust your kid. If it's eating, if like that kid's eating a little bit more so, or if it's more comfortable, let him go. Like I had such a great time letting Cooper try new things. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of like during that 6 month period from age 6 months all the way up to a year. That's your time to obviously you're supplementing, and their main nutrition comes from formula or your breast milk, whatever that is. And as we know and fully believe, fed is best. So just putting that out there directly if you didn't already get those vibes from us. But yeah, just to know that you do have that freedom and flexibility. like not as much pressure for them to actually consume all of what's on their plate to get enough nutrition and calories. So that definitely like loosened me up a little bit, but that was also part of, especially that first experience. Chloe's first solid food was avocado, and we did the baby led weaning, which if anyone doesn't know, it's what it sounds like. It's, you just let them kind of do the feeding themselves, and they get to eat and experience and play and just like feel the food for themselves. So we did avocado. She did not get it in her mouth the first experience, and I was just like trying with every being in my body not to pick up the avocado and just put it in her mouth, because I'm like, this is it, Chloe. Is it going in your mouth? You got to at least taste it. Come on, girl. And everyone prepped me as much as they could. They probably won't eat it their first experience. And I'm like, dang it. She was so close. I want her to just eat it. But so yeah, that was my first taste of, you know, letting go of control and like letting her do her own thing, compared to the whole time I'm trying to do breastfeeding for her. I'm trying to hold the bottle for her. So I think that was the first time where I'm just like letting her do it on her own kind of like time and everything. So that was fun. And it was good to kind of like talk to other mamas, and just like, it's so funny that we didn't know each other at this time, because we would have been like going back and forth so much of like,
I know,
did Cooper like his sweet potato, blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of fun to realize, okay, what foods are okay. And then like jumping ahead, like obviously you can't give them whole grapes for so long, or like whole blueberries. You got to mush them and flatten them out or cut them. And so I was just like, oh shoot, when's the turning point for that? So it's just like, I think
I still cut Cooper's grapes.
I mean, I feel like it depends on the grape, you know?
Yeah,
if
for
it's
sure.
a small grape, yeah. But like, yeah, I think it was just one of those things where, okay, that was the biggest kind of like, there's not a rule book, but there's like a little play-by-play book about it. And then from then on, it's just like, okay, toddlers, good luck.
Toddlers. Oof, throw out the rule books with toddlers, man.
I know.
We are in a pasta, we call it like our peas, pasta, pizza, cheese, pepperoni.
The good peas.
Like, the good peas. Cooper is just obsessed with like pasta, any type of pasta, any shape, form, anything pasta. He still loves his avocado, mac and cheese. He loves carrot. Like, I mean, he's got a pretty good diet. He'll eat olives by the spoonful. I mean, loves olives. But like some days he'll love food, some days he won't. And it's something where like we just need to trust that when he's hungry, he's hungry. Something that we do in our house is I do have a little snack cupboard for him that he can access. So that takes away any of that desire to like sneak things or like kind of be a little sus on different items, if that makes sense. Like really forces him to not desire things that he can't get. So like I make sure that the options are there for him, have a range. So we've got our healthy foods in there, but we also have his little crackers or things that like he can feel a sense of control in getting what he wants, but also encouraging him to make the right choices as well. But I mean, look, they're toddlers. Sometimes he just needs to eat. So like if that means we're having yogurt for dinner, okay, we're having Greek yogurt for dinner. Of course, we try to add in those little sprinkles of things, but every day is different with a toddler, if that makes sense. But I'm definitely finding that anytime we go to a restaurant, I'm re-looking at the menu, or I'm looking at the menu in advance to see, do they have pasta? Do they have chicken? What do they have on the menu to make sure my kid's fed? But I never thought I was going to be the mom that went to the manager at a restaurant and go, you guys used to have pasta on the menu and now you took it off and you did buttered chicken and you did a cheeseburger. What's my toddler going to eat?
Can you please just make this happen in the back? Because this is what he needs. This is what he expects. So he's the boss around here.
Though. He is the boss around here. And it was a funny chat with the manager because we don't have very many restaurants in our town. And I was like, you know that this is going to deter us from coming back. And so on New Year's Eve, don't tell anyone this, but I brought a container of pasta for Cooper because I knew we were going to go to the pub for dinner with New Year's with my sisters-in-law, and I wanted the experience to go well for them. They were only in town a week. I knew it was New Year's Eve. So I brought a little container full of pasta that I had made for Cooper in my purse, and we're sitting down. I pull it out, and then someone goes, what's that? And I was like, it's pasta because you guys took off it from the menu. And that's when the manager came around to have a laugh with me. And I thought I was in trouble, but I was going to own it. She laughed at me and was just like, you were such a good mom for like caring about your kid and advocating. But I thought I was in trouble. It was so funny.
I mean, you do what you got to do. And especially for toddlers, there's no way a restaurant can get mad at you for bringing your own food. I feel like that's the exception right there.
I mean, if I was bringing myself my own food, look, fine. But
that's
my kid's 2.5. Leave him alone.
Yes, for sure. And then for the cupboard situation, like him having his own little pantry or access, do you, because I'm curious, because I would love to maybe incorporate this for Chloe, of like, do you kind of have portion control in that, or what does that look like?
Exactly. So we'll have like a couple pouches. So he still likes a couple pouches. They're more of the adult pouches. I'll have like his little raisin boxes, but then I have like these small containers or small Ziploc baggies full of chips or full of crackers or full of, he's really into the veggie straws right now. And so I won't have like the full grocery store bag size, obviously, in there. But in the same note, I kind of like let him have choices. Or he'll go, Mama, food, or Mama, hungry. I'm like, let's go have a look. And so I kind of guide him towards what he should have. Obviously, things that have to go in the refrigerator, I just kind of give him choices. Like I'll put him up in the fridge and he can pick. But I recommend getting like a little small Ziploc baggies, or like we also have a little divider thing. For all his little snack options that he can kind of like pick and choose from, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I really like it. I think it helps with like that sense of, oh my God, what's in there? I want to have all these things. He kind of almost gets bored of the bad snacks and then wants to have what's in the fridge, which typically things in the fridge are healthier. And I want to make it clear, bad snacks, fed is best. And that's something that I'm a big advocate for. And everything is good in moderation. And so like if he wants to have some chips, okay, but as long as we're having an avocado or some other things with it. But trying to teach healthy options early on, I think is a pretty good option, but also like giving them the choices to make the right choice is also easier said than done, but like giving them a variety. So in like your little lunchbox, when you go to the park with your friends, making sure you have a choices of crackers, but then you also have an apple, oranges, and blueberries, or apples, a yogurt pouch or whatever, and trying to give that variety and choices. So then he ends up not desiring those bad foods so bad because they're so taboo. I find that at least with my eating habits, if I know I'm not allowed to have something, or I've created this boundary of like, you can't have sugar because this, that's in my mind all the time is I want. And I want Cooper to have a choice of what he eats and doesn't desire something so badly and feels like he can't have it. So then when he does have it, he eats all of it, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yes. I mean, in this like toddler stage, I feel like independence and control is everything. So if we allow them some of that, then I feel like that takes like some of the just like stress out of it. So I think that we do something similar with Chloe, of the sense of like, okay, I'll fix her dinner plate, and it has its little different categories or different spaces on it. And then I'll be like, okay, can you, like, let's say she hardly eats anything, and I'll just say, okay, like before we go to bed or start getting ready for bed, can you please eat a couple more bites off of your plate? You can choose which bites they are. Okay. So just as long as you eat something. And we are so not like all organic, like all fruits and veggies and like free range chicken and whatever. I mean, that's the ideal scenario, as we know, but like, we are busy people, like, and, Chloe and toddlers in general will only eat so much like quote unquote good food. Like we just need them to eat and have calories, and they're kids, like
That's normal.
we do. I think you and I are on the same page of like, having a balance. Like there are those parents and families that are very much on one end of the spectrum, and there's people who take their kids to McDonald's several times a week, and there's no hate on either one, because like what is best for your family is best for your family, and that looks different for everyone. But yeah, I feel like we do pretty good of finding some lenience and going a little bit back and forth. But yeah, I mean, Chloe just eating in general would be nice. And it's so like not being able to take her to the pediatrician for her checkup, and to actually see, okay, is she being healthy with her weight and like her size and everything. And obviously we know weight is only a number, but for kiddos, that's a big part of our measurement for them and like health and everything. So it's just like, it'll be interesting for me to know when we finally do have that 3-year checkup of like, okay, is she doing good? I hope so. 'Cause I think she's eating enough. She seems like she is, and she's acting healthy and seems happy.
I think that's all
like
that
what
matters.
it comes down to. Exactly. Yeah.
I do.
So yeah.
I think it's interesting, since we've been in Australia, I've noticed they have less of that measurement or scales than we did in the States. Because as we know, at home in Arizona, like you go to the pediatrician every like month up until a certain time. And, and there's always these charts of like Cooper's 100th percentile for height, weight, and head shape. Like Cooper's always been on the 100th percentile for all of these things, right? But then we get down here, and I was asking our pediatrician for when we got his 2-year-old shots there, she was like, we don't do that kind of thing. And that was such a strange thing for me, because I am a type A person. I do want to know, am I doing the right thing? Are we doing that? And I mean, that kind of gets us into our mom tip in a sec, but like, I find that like we put a lot of judgment on ourselves, I think, to make sure that people aren't judging us. And I think it's something where like, if I give Cooper a little baggie of Cheetos or Twisties, as we call them here, and all the other moms are giving them something else, but they don't know behind the scenes the whole day Cooper had most healthiest foods, blah, 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 blah. But I had said, if we go to the park and you do X, Y, Z and you listen to mommy, when we get there, you can have your special treat. Right. And so I think something that, again, and we'll talk about this, but I think it's important to remember, like, you're doing the best job you can, and you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know what financially is happening with behind people. We don't know if there's allergies with kids. We don't know what deals and fun little like tricks and tips you're going through. I mean, like, you could be potty training and the reward could be Cheetos. You don't know if we get to school on time, you're going to have that lollipop on your walk-in. You don't know what people are kind of going through. And I think it's so important to remember, like, as a parent, you're doing the best job you can every single day. And I think everyone else, you need to remember, is trying the best that they can. There's no rule book for each kid. You're not given a guide on what Cooper is going to eat up until 18 years old, if that makes sense. And so trying to give yourselves grace and time into like space to be, and like, if you're exhausted and that's what they want to eat, let them do it, as long as it's like making them healthy in your choices and you're feeling good about their behavior and all these things. Like, I wouldn't get so caught up in the small things, if that makes sense.
Yes, 1,000,000% well said. And it's like all just a chapter. It's all temporary, because let's say they're having poor eating habits now. They're not going to be eating the exact same way in like 1 year, in 5 years, and when they're 18, like, it's just like, let it be. If it works for you or them at the time, just let it be. So I know easier said than done, but give yourself those reminders when you need it, because I know that mom guilt hits hard.
Yes. So speaking of, we have a segment in our podcast called Friend Tips. And the topic of the week is how to best respond to judgment from others of how you're feeding your child, but also like how to not outwardly express judgment if you're a friend of someone who has a kid and you don't have kids yourself, like how to kind of navigate that. And I'd love to know what your tips are, what your thoughts are, and anything like that.
Yeah, because it can be hard, especially if, like, let's say you personally are doing something that is on the stricter side, or like maybe that's what being the outsider or the friend, and then you see something else happening. It's hard because there's so many different ways to feed your kiddo, as we've just went over. So I think for me, like, having one example in my head that just pops up because it really rubbed me the wrong way, and like, I love my mother-in-law, love her. But, she did come from a different generation. And then, like, also to see baby-led weaning, and also to see, like, me being the mom and me being very hands-on with my own kiddo. So we were out to breakfast one time and I brought Chloe her own snacks. And this was a ways back. This was like at least over a year ago. But I was like rolling up little Lara bars, it's almost like made out of dates and like little teeny nuts. And like, I made sure the nuts weren't big, blah, blah, blah. So I like would roll up little bite size for her and just like give them to her. And then at one point, I remember so vividly, my mother-in-law took a couple of bites away from Chloe that I had set out for her. And she's like, I'm sorry, these are just too big. I just can't. I can't let her do that. And I'm like, so I just like let that one go, because, Chloe's still working on eating what's in front of her. And, it's not like she moved out all of what I'm feeding her. So I'm like, okay, pick your battles. And, moving forward, I will maybe have something prepared to say if it arises. But like, nothing drastic ever has come up since then, or like nothing consistent. But it's one of those things where, like, okay, understand if it's a priority to speak up on it, especially if it's consistent, or like, let's say it's really targeted or really aggressive, or just like a drawn out conversation about it. Yeah, address it. But like, it always comes down to, this is your kid, this is your family, you get to make the call. And if it's safe, it's safe. And like, that's like the bottom line of it. Yes, it should not be anyone else's like decision or right to comment on it. That's their own issue. That's what they're going through. And then if you're on the other side, if you're on the other side, like, let's say you are processing some judgmental comments in your head, take a pause and then don't say them out loud just yet. But like, if, like, let's say, you can maybe ask them questions about it in the best way that you possibly can. That's very gentle. And then maybe ask how you can help feed their kid, right? Like sometimes people want some help, like facilitating, and maybe they'll accept that.
Do you want me to help you cut up that a little bit smaller? Or like there's other ways you could say things besides just saying, oh, no, you know what I mean?
Especially if it's a safety thing. Like that's where I will, my mother-in-law was thinking, it was based off of safety, not like anything else. And that was going on in her head. My call was that it was safe. So, there will be a difference in opinion as far as that goes. But yeah, what about you? What kind of comes to your head?
I think I just remember a very specific situation with a friend where we went down to the pool and there was a lot of snacks being had and experienced. And I had given Cooper goldfish, and this friend was giving their kid like what she would have called a healthier snack choices. And her child asked my kid for some food, and I went and offered it, and she immediately snapped and said, no, my kid doesn't eat that. That's unhealthy. And she goes, you eat these foods. And in that moment, I found that it was frustrating for me because my kid was younger, but goldfish were what Cooper was having as a snack. It's what I felt was right for him at that time. We were at the pool. It was something where that was a very acceptable food choice for him at the setting. And I found that I thought that comment was super rude. It limited their child. Their child then reacted in a way. My kid looked at me like, am I doing something wrong? And immediately my immediate response was to retract, be defensive of like, take the goldfish away, and then defend why I was doing it. When now as a parent, and now I'm not an expert, but I'm, almost 3 years into it, I won't justify what I'm doing any longer to other people. In that moment, I thought, oh, she must know something I don't know. You've got 2 kids. I don't have, this many kids. And I was so upset about that conversation. I left feeling so yucky. I got home to Chase and I was like, this is what happened. Should we not be giving Cooper goldfish? Da, 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 da. And Chase looked at me and goes, just because that's their choice doesn't have a reflection of you. They might be going through their own allergies. They might be going through their own battles with food. But also, if that's her response or if that's why they're choosing to do that, just look a little deeper and be like, okay, well, what you're doing is still right for you and your kid. And I just remember that was a really tough thing as a parent, for having someone else say something, project what they were doing onto you, onto their kids, and making that tone and setting a strange. And I now I'm very confident in how we parent and how I'm trying to do things, and I'm learning every day. And I've got a lot of really good friends here. A lot of my good friends here in Naruma, that make me feel good about our choices. Or if I'm going, oh my God, we can only eat this, what do you suggest? That the conversation is open and fluid as opposed to demanding and short and in that sort of way. And it turned out that friends' kids did have some allergies and digestive issues going on with processed food. So obviously that didn't work for their family. I don't think the delivery was what either she meant it to be, or when I'm giving her grace, I'm hoping that the delivery wasn't what she meant, as opposed to like, maybe she meant to say it that way. I hope she didn't. But with that being said, like, I just know, instead of going again now, especially with our next kids, our kids are going to have goldfish. They're going to have whatever, like, but also these things. I think he was probably 16 months, 14 months, like easy finger foods, easy, like, again, picking up a goldfish is that like that good eating motion. Like there's a lot of reasons why it worked for us at that time. So my friend tip was just to remember, sometimes it's not about you, it's about them, what's going on in their family or their situations, their dietaries, their choices of food. Maybe they had that all day long. And so don't automatically like knock yourself down if you're doing something that's working for you and your family. That's my little friend tip.
Yes. Well said. Well said. Well, yay. That wraps up a really fun episode with you. As always, I feel like we covered a lot of ground. We could have gone very much more into a deep dive in each of those, but that's like all things feeding our kiddos up until this point, at least for us. And I'm sure it looks different, like with teenagers, like guzzling down Coca-Cola and all that. So we'll get there. I know.
All right, girlfriend. I love chatting with you. Thank you for today. And we'll see you guys next week.
Sounds good. All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Mom Meets World. If you enjoyed listening, please give us a like, subscribe, and find us on Instagram at Mom Meets World Pod.
Because sometimes you just need another mom to remind you that you're getting it right more than you're getting it wrong. See you next time.